Imagine your brain as a very old piece of software. It was installed by your parents' school late-night TV movies and random playground rumors that nobody ever bothered to fact-check. The problem is, no one ever updated it. And no, this has nothing to do with whether you're smart or not. Kids believe things. Adults believe things too. There are ideas we hold on to for years simply because we never stop to ask. Wait, is this actually true? What you're about to hear are not events that happen. They're things a lot of people once believed were true at least once in their lives. In this video, there are 31 stories like that. Some are harmless, some are unsettling, and some cause millions of people to misunderstand reality without even realizing it. Chances are, you're going to recognize yourself in at least one of them. Story 1. Swallow a seed and a tree will grow inside you. As kids, a lot of Americans grew up with a quiet but very green fear. All it took was accidentally swallowing an apple seed or a watermelon seed. And suddenly your brain went full horror movie. A tree growing inside your stomach, roots spreading, a trunk pushing upward. If your imagination really committed, you'd start wondering where the sunlight would come from and who was supposed to water it. This was a classic parent scare tactic. No biology lesson, no explanation of digestion. Just one sentence: swallow a seed and it'll grow in your stomach. And that was enough. Kids immediately started chewing more carefully, spitting out seeds like professionals, and quietly carrying that vague fear for years. Here's the reality. Your stomach is not a plant pot from Home Depot. It's a professional acid tank. It's designed to handle pizza hamburgers and every bad food decision you've ever made. There is no garden in there. The only place a seed ever grows inside your body is on a one-way trip out of the toilet. Yeah, that's it. Story 2. Step on a crack and you'll break your mother's back. On American playgrounds, there's a rhyme so powerful it turned walking home into a full moral exam. Step on a crack, break your mother's back. It rhymes. It flows. And it's scary enough to make kids stare at the sidewalk instead of the sky. The genius of this line is that it needs zero evidence. It mixes a catchy rhythm with a child's biggest fear, accidentally hurting someone they love. And just like that, the sidewalk becomes a minefield. Every kid turns into an unwilling long jump athlete, walking, calculating, measuring every single step. Because no one ever corrected it, the belief stuck around for a long time. Kids grow up. They learn that cracks don't have superpowers. But sometimes they still dodge them on instinct. Not because they fully believe anymore, but because a very human thought is still echoing somewhere in the back of the brain. What if, though? Story 3. Washing raw chicken to make it clean. In many American family kitchens, there's a ritual that feels almost sacred before dinner. You take the raw chicken, put it in the sink, turn on the faucet, and give it a bath. The logic sounds solid. Wash it, and it's clean. It's water. That's what water does. Everyone learned that as a kid. This belief makes people feel responsible, careful, even more hygienic than others. The chicken gets gently rubbed, turned side to side like it just came back from a long walk through a bacteria-filled drizzle. The truth is, kind of backwards. Washing chicken doesn't kill bacteria. It just gives bacteria a chance to go on vacation all around your kitchen. Water splashes onto the counter, onto the knife, onto the salad greens waiting innocently nearby. You're not cleaning the chicken. You're opening a water park for germs. The safest method is almost disappointingly simple. Don't wash anything. Just cook it. High heat does the job better than any faucet ever could. Story 4. Break a mirror, 7 years of bad luck. Breaking a mirror isn't just breaking an object. According to old superstition, it's the moment you accidentally sign up for a long-term bad luck plan, lasting exactly 7 years. Not 6, not 8, 7. As if the universe has a very serious customer service department. This belief is ancient. It comes from a time when people thought mirrors held a piece of the human soul. And the number 7 has always been treated as mysterious, sacred. The kind of number the universe likes to use when it wants to sound meaningful. What's impressive is that this belief survived for centuries, even though modern mirrors are just mass-produced glass. In reality, the only bad luck after breaking a mirror is having to clean up carefully, and the very real chance of stepping on a tiny shard you missed. The universe isn't punishing you. The floor, on the other hand, might. Story 5. Goldfish only remember for 3 seconds. The belief that goldfish only remember things for 3 seconds is incredibly convenient for humans. It lets us keep a living creature in a tiny bowl and comfort ourselves with, "It's fine." It forgets immediately. It forgets the food, forgets the last lap it swam, forgets you even exist. Sounds very humane. The problem is, science ruins this feeling. Goldfish are not nearly as clueless as we like to think. They can remember things for weeks, sometimes even months. They recognize the person who feeds them. They learn routines. They can even be trained to do simple tasks. In other words, the fish isn't swimming in circles because it forgot. It's swimming because that's the bowl. And when you forgot to feed it the day before, there's a very good chance it remembers that part perfectly. That's usually the moment people look into the fish tank and suddenly feel a little guilty. Story 6: Peanuts are nuts. There's a tiny fact powerful enough to ruin any casual conversation. It's the moment someone clears their throat and says, "Actually, peanuts aren't nuts." The room goes quiet. Everyone turns to look at the person who said it with the same shared thought. Why did you bring this up right now? Technically, they're correct. Peanuts are legumes in the same family as peas and lentils. But the issue isn't science. The issue is timing. This knowledge exists like a social hand grenade. It doesn't explode loudly, but it's enough to drain the fun out of the room. No one eats peanuts wondering about their plant family tree. People just want a snack and the game on TV. So this fact survives not because it matters, but because there's always someone ready to toss it onto the table, just to prove they know. Story 7: Fortune cookies predict the future. After a full meal in an American-style Chinese restaurant, there's always a small, almost cosmic ritual. You crack open the fortune cookie, pull out the slip of paper, and read it like the universe just sent you a private message. For many people, it's just for fun, but for quite a few others, it feels like a hint about the future. Fortune cookie messages are always perfectly vague. You will soon encounter a great opportunity. What opportunity when no one knows? And that's exactly why people like to believe. Our brains are very good at filling in the blanks, especially when the blanks sound positive. The interesting truth is fortune cookies aren't even from China. They're a product of American culture. But that doesn't make the belief any less appealing. Because who wouldn't like to think that their future was just neatly wrapped inside a small, crispy cookie? Story 8: Chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Some beliefs sound so silly you assume only kids would believe them. And then you find out adults do too. One survey once made America pause for a second when it revealed that there were grown adults who believed chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Not a joke. Brown cows make chocolate milk. White cows make regular milk. Very tidy logic. This belief survives because it's simple, easy to remember, and no one ever seriously questioned it. Very few people stop in the middle of a grocery store and ask, "Wait, then where are the strawberry cows?" When an idea sounds reasonable enough and doesn't cause immediate harm, the brain just lets it through. The reality is much less magical. Chocolate milk is just regular milk mixed with cocoa. No special cows required. But the idea of specialized cows keeps hanging on, as a reminder that growing up doesn't automatically mean all misunderstandings disappear on their own. Story 9: Airplane toilets dump waste onto the ground. In the imagination of many people, an airplane in the sky is basically a giant flying septic tank. And every time someone presses the flush button, something very unpleasant is falling down from 30,000 feet. This fear even has a name: blue ice. Just hearing it is enough to make your spine chill. This belief exists because it makes sense in a movie logic kind of way. Humans are very good at filling gaps and understanding with the worst possible scenario. Toilets have waste. Planes fly overhead. So obviously it must fall to the ground. Simple logic. No fact-checking required. The reality is much less dramatic. Airplane toilets use a vacuum system and store everything in a sealed tank. Nothing is released until the plane lands and it's properly handled. Nothing is falling from the sky. The only thing you regularly experience falling from above is rain, and sometimes a completely baseless fear that imagination took way too far. Story 10. Looking at the sun makes you instantly blind. A lot of people grew up with a warning that sounded like it came straight out of an action movie. Don't look at the sun, you'll go blind immediately. Not it'll damage your eyes. Not it'll hurt over time. Instant blindness, like flipping a switch. The message was clear. 1 second and your life is over. The truth is, this warning is exaggerated but not completely made up. Staring at the sun is a bad idea, a very bad idea, but it doesn't work as fast or as dramatically as adults made it sound. Your eyes don't explode. The world doesn't go dark on the spot. The damage happens slowly, gradually, quietly. So why did adults always exaggerate it? Because fear is the most efficient way to teach kids when there's no time for a science lesson. Scare them enough and the lesson sticks. And to be fair, it worked. Most of us still avoid looking directly at the sun, not because we fully understand how it works, but because a voice in the back of our head is still saying, "You'll go blind." Story 11, Area 51, has aliens. In the middle of the Nevada desert, there's a place that for many Americans is more than just a military base. In the collective imagination, Area 51 is a secret warehouse full of flying saucers, alien bodies, and a few glowing jars that look very suspicious. This belief is the perfect product of American conspiracy culture. It has all the right ingredients: the government, fences, warning signs, and the phrase classified information. The reality is, Area 51 is most likely just a place where aircraft are tested. A lot of engineers, a lot of paperwork, and very few green creatures. But that truth is boring. Believing the government is hiding aliens is far more exciting than believing they're testing jet engines. Humans love conspiracy stories because they make the world feel more dramatic. So Area 51 stays forever linked to UFOs, no matter how dull the real explanation might be. Story 12. You can't get pregnant during your period. This is one of the most dangerous biological misunderstandings ever passed around, often starting with the sentence, "It's fine, she's on her period." It sounds confident, almost too confident. And because it sounds reasonable, a lot of people believed it without ever checking. This belief is based on the idea that the human body runs like a perfect work calendar. Right days, right hours, never late. But biology is not Google Calendar. Sperm can survive for several days. Everyone's cycle is different. And the body doesn't read textbooks before it acts. The consequences usually don't show up immediately. They show up 9 months later, in a moment that makes many people say, "Wait, this wasn't part of the plan." This is the kind of lesson a lot of people learn far too late. And it's a reminder that when it comes to biology, rumors have never been a safe method. Story 13. Holding your breath when passing a cemetery. When a car drives past a cemetery, a strange reflex appears in a lot of kids. They hold their breath. No one gives an order. There's no sign. But someone in the car says, "Hold your breath," and suddenly everyone goes quiet, cheeks puffed out like they've just entered an ancient ritual. The reason passed around sounds serious. So ghosts won't enter your body. How that's supposed to work, no one ever explains. Do ghosts travel through air? Does holding your breath make you spiritually invisible? No one knows. At that moment, logic matters less than fear. In reality, this isn't a supernatural defense. It's a silent, breath-holding contest between siblings in the back seat. The cemetery just happens to be the starting line. Invisible fear mixed with childhood competition turns a solemn place into a lung endurance test. And strangely enough, a lot of people remember that moment more clearly than the road they were actually driving on. Story 14. Toilets spin the other way in the southern hemisphere. This is one of those facts people love to show off. Someone will say with full confidence, "In the southern hemisphere, toilet water spins the opposite way because of the Coriolis effect." It sounds scientific, very smart, and convincing enough that no one dares to ask a follow-up question. The problem is, it's wrong. The Coriolis effect is real, but it affects hurricanes and ocean currents, not your bathroom. It's not that bored. The direction toilet water spins depends on the toilet's design and the angle of the water jets, not Earth's position in the universe. This truth usually causes the person who shared the fact to quietly retreat, because there's no smooth way to say it again and still sound impressive. And yet the belief survives, because it sounds too good to let go. And in casual conversation, sometimes a story that sounds smart matters more than whether it's actually true. Story 15. Eating before bed will definitely make you gain weight. This belief turns the wall clock into a strict personal trainer. As soon as evening hits, it starts giving orders. Eating time is over. According to popular logic, if you eat after a certain hour, your body immediately converts every calorie into fat, as if nighttime is when the body switches into emergency storage mode. The truth is, the human body doesn't run on time zones. It doesn't look at the clock and think, oh, it's 10 p.m., time to gain weight. Weight depends on total calories and total energy burned over the entire day, not whether you eat in the morning or at night. A piece of cake before bed isn't scary because it's late. It's scary because it's cake. But since explaining biology takes time, people prefer to personify the clock. And so this belief lives on as a quiet reminder that makes many people stare at their late-night snack with deep, unnecessary guilt. Story 16, sharks can smell blood from miles away. Thanks to movies, sharks in many people's imagination are basically living blood detectors underwater. All it takes is one drop of blood falling into the ocean, and miles away a shark lifts its head and thinks, that smells familiar. Cue the tense background music. The truth is much less dramatic. Sharks do have a strong sense of smell. That part is true, but it's not a superpower. They can detect blood at very low concentrations. Yes, but the range is measured in hundreds of meters, not across the entire ocean. They're predators, not underwater psychics. But movies did their job well. One scary enough film can overwrite science. And so people step into the sea feeling like they've just sent out a dinner invitation. Even though in reality what sharks care about far more is the fish nearby, not you. Story 17. Bigfoot exists. In the dense forests of the United States, especially in the Pacific Northwest, there's a creature believed to always be standing behind some tree quietly watching. Bigfoot. Tall, hairy, and incredibly good at avoiding cameras. Bigfoot isn't just a legend. It's a whole culture. There are festivals, t-shirts, TV shows, and countless videos so blurry they make you wonder if the camera operator was shaking or just emotionally overwhelmed. And here's the interesting part. Despite the lack of clear evidence, the belief refuses to die. The reason is simple. Humans like to believe there's still something out there. In a world that Google Maps has almost completely scanned, the idea of a mysterious creature makes life feel a little less boring. And if Bigfoot really does exist, the scariest part probably isn't his size. It's the fact that he's had to avoid humans for all these years. Story 18. Bats are blind. The phrase blind as a bat has damaged the reputation of an entire species for generations. Hear it often enough, and people start imagining bats flying wildly in the dark, bumping into walls like confused furry pinballs. The reality is, bats are not blind. Most bat species have perfectly functional vision, and many of them see quite well in low light. And that's not even their best feature. They also have a superpower humans can only dream of: echolocation. Bats emit sounds. Listen to the echoes and build a 3D map of the world around them. In other words, bats don't just see, they hear space. If humans move through the night with a flashlight, bats move through it with built-in GPS radar and night mode. So if there's any species that deserves to be labeled blind for bumping into things, it probably isn't the bat. Story 19. Pop rocks and soda will make your stomach explode. There was an urban legend that haunted American playgrounds for years. If you eat Pop Rocks and then drink soda, your stomach will explode. Not a stomachache, not discomfort. Explode. Like an action movie. The story spread so fast that many kids started eyeing those popping candy packets with suspicion, like they were explosives in colorful disguise. This fear didn't need evidence. All it took was one kid telling it with a serious face. Science is slow. Rumors move fast, especially when they sound both scary and forbidden. The reality is much calmer. The amount of gas produced by Pop Rocks and soda is far too small to cause any disaster. Your stomach handles it like everything else. The only thing at real risk of exploding is your tooth enamel and your dentist's disappointment. But when you're a kid, science matters less than a warning that starts with, "I heard that." Story 20. The 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is one of humanity's most widely accepted unspoken agreements. A piece of food falls onto the floor. Everyone freezes for half a beat. An imaginary clock starts ticking in the head. Not 5 seconds yet. And just like that, the food is pardoned. Picked up, blown on lightly. Eaten as if nothing ever happened. This belief is based on a very charming idea that bacteria are disciplined creatures, that they politely wait until the 5 seconds are up before invading. Like, sorry it's not our turn yet. It's an incredibly comforting thought, especially when the food still looks fine. Science, however, doesn't care about comfort. Bacteria don't have stopwatches. They attach to food almost immediately. No countdown, no mercy. And yet the 5-second rule is still going strong. Because it's not really about hygiene. It's about regret. And sometimes humans would rather believe something comforting than accept letting go of a perfectly good snack that just hit the floor. Story at 21. Eggs can only stand upright on the equinox. Twice a year on the spring equinox and the autumn equinox, a strange ritual takes place. People take out eggs and try to balance them upright. The belief is that at the exact moment the earth and the sun are in perfect balance, gravity becomes gentler and the egg finally cooperates. It sounds scientific and just cosmic enough. This idea makes people feel like they're participating in a delicate astronomical experiment. Social media helps inflate it with photos of standing eggs and very serious captions, as if someone just unlocked a secret of the universe. The truth, however, is much more ordinary. You can balance an egg on any day of the year as long as you're patient enough and find a few tiny bumps on the shell. There's no special cosmic moment, just normal gravity, a steady hand, and a belief that sounds more fun than the truth. Story 22. Sugar helps medicine go down. Thanks to movies, a lot of people grew up believing that a spoonful of sugar would make medicine easier to swallow. The familiar scene goes like this. Someone grimaces, swallows the medicine, then immediately puts sugar into their mouth like they just activated a medical spell. The song from Mary Poppins probably didn't help. Psychologically speaking, this belief isn't completely baseless. A strong, sweet taste can briefly distract your taste buds, making your brain forget the bitterness for a few short seconds. But that's just a delay, not a solution. Once the sweetness fades, the medicine's aftertaste is still there, patiently waiting for its turn. In reality, sugar doesn't make medicine less bitter. It just makes the experience more chaotic, as sweet and bitter flavors fight for control of your mouth. And yet this belief survives, because it's comforting. And sometimes the feeling that at least I did something matters more than whether it actually worked. Story 23. Sweating it out will cure your illness. When people catch a cold, they often get advice that sounds full of determination. Just sweat it out and you'll be fine. So extra layers go on. Blankets get piled up. Some people even think about working out just to force the sweat. That flushed, overheated feeling makes it seem like the body is fighting hard. The problem is feeling busy isn't the same as healing. Sweating doesn't push viruses out through your pores. It just makes you feel like you're doing something useful. Your body fights viruses with the immune system, not by turning you into a mobile steam room. This advice becomes dangerous when it leads people to dehydration, more exhaustion, and the idea that resting is somehow weak. The truth is, the most boring solution is also the most effective. Drink fluids. Rest. Wait for your body to do its job. But lying still and recovering doesn't sound nearly as heroic as sweating your sickness away. So the belief lives on even while science quietly shakes its head. Story 24. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. A lot of people grew up with the same warning repeated every time that familiar crack sound appeared. Stop cracking your knuckles. You'll get arthritis when you're older. It usually came with a serious adult stare, like they had just watched your future joints collapse in real time. The warning worked because it targeted a long-term fear. No pain now, but you'll pay for it later. And since no kid wants to argue anatomy with an adult, the belief quietly took root. The scientific truth is surprisingly different. That cracking sound isn't bones grinding together. It's gas bubbles forming in the joint fluid and popping. Long-term studies spanning many years have found no direct link between knuckle cracking and arthritis. The only thing that reliably happens when you crack your knuckles is that you annoy everyone around you. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real reason adults wanted you to stop. Story 25. The 3-day dating rule. There was a time when after a first date, you were supposed to wait exactly 3 days before texting. Not 2, not 4. 3 days, like a serious social ritual. The rule was meant to make you look cool. Not too eager. Mysterious enough to keep the other person curious. The problem is, this rule was born in a world without smartphones. No read receipts, no typing, no bubbles, no online status. Today, deliberately waiting 72 hours just makes you look like you're playing a strange mind game, or like you dropped your phone into a lake. Technology turned this rule into a polite joke. When everyone can see that you're online, silence no longer feels strategic. It just feels confusing. And so a dating rule that once felt very serious now survives only as a relic from the era when texting required pressing each key one at a time. Story 26. Your hair can turn gray overnight from fear. Movies and novels love the scene where a character goes through a terrifying shock, goes to bed, and wakes up the next morning with completely gray hair. It's fast, dramatic, like fear has its own switch that flips instant aging mode. Real-life biology doesn't cooperate with that script. Once hair has grown out, it's basically already finalized. It doesn't change color just because you had a bad day, no matter how bad that day was. There's no emergency button that turns black hair gray overnight. What can happen is that intense stress causes darker hairs to fall out faster, revealing the gray hairs that were already there. It can look like your hair turned gray overnight, but really time just decided to show itself. Less dramatic than the movies. Much more realistic. Story 27. Wearing glasses makes your eyes weaker. A lot of people grew up with a familiar fear. Once you start wearing glasses, your eyes will become dependent. The more you wear them, the weaker your eyes get, until one day you won't be able to function without them. So some people squint at signs, guess letters while driving, do mental gymnastics just to delay the moment they have to wear glasses. And then the day comes. You put them on for the first time. You look outside, and shock. Street signs are sharp. Leaves have individual edges. The world jumps from 480p to full HD. The first reaction isn't joy. It's panic. Oh no, my eyes are definitely dependent now. The truth is, glasses don't make your eyes weaker. They just help light hit the right place. Your eyes don't become lazy. They simply stop struggling for no reason. What changes isn't your eyesight. It's your standard. And once you know how clear the world can actually look, it's very hard to go back to blur. Not because your eyes got weaker, but because you've tasted what seeing properly feels like. Story 28. Cutting your hair often makes it grow faster. There's a piece of logic that sounds very convincing. If you want your hair to grow faster, you should cut it regularly. It sounds like gardening. You trim a plant, it grows better, so hair must work the same way. This belief gets passed along from the barbershop to the family dinner table and then takes root for generations. The problem is hair is not a plant. The part you cut off retired a long time ago. It can't communicate with the hair follicle to say, hey, we just got cut, grow faster. Hair grows from follicles in the scalp. Its growth rate is determined by genetics and your body, not your salon schedule. So why does this belief refuse to die? Because after a haircut, hair looks neater, thicker, healthier. That visual effect tricks the eyes and the brain into thinking the hair is growing rapidly. In reality, it isn't. But the belief keeps growing just fine. Story 29. Eating too many carrots turns your skin orange. At first glance, this sounds exactly like a thing adults say to scare kids. Eat too many carrots and you'll turn orange. Most people file it away as a joke. But here's the interesting part. It's not completely wrong. It's just misunderstood in a very human way. Technically speaking, eating an extremely large amount of carrots over a long period of time can cause your skin to take on a light orange tint. There's even a scientific name for it. But extremely large doesn't mean a few carrots or a bowl of salad every day. It means an amount that would make even a rabbit look at you with concern. This is a classic example of a half-truth. A tiny piece of truth that turns into an irrational fear once it spreads by word of mouth. In reality, long before your skin changes color, your body would show plenty of other signs. But humans prefer the simpler version. Eat carrots, turn orange. Short, memorable, and more fun than the actual truth. Story 30. Microwaves cause cancer. Just hearing the word radiation is enough to make many people immediately imagine something glowing dangerous and definitely cancer-causing. And so the microwave, a silent box in the kitchen, suddenly becomes the villain. Some people stand far away while it's running. Some open the door and then take a step back just to be safe. The problem is misunderstanding. Not all radiation is the same. Microwaves use low-energy radiation just enough to make water molecules vibrate and create heat. It doesn't damage DNA. It doesn't turn food radioactive. And it doesn't quietly harm you. Science has been very clear, but fear is always louder. When something invisible gets labeled as dangerous, imagination eagerly fills in the rest. And that's how the microwave ends up being more suspicious than fast food, even though fast food is probably the thing worth worrying about more. Story 31. You must wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming. This is one of those unbreakable summer family rules. After eating, you must wait 30 minutes before getting in the water. No arguing, no exceptions. The reason sounds serious. If you don't wait, you'll get cramps sink to the bottom, and the swim will end in a way no one wants. The rule is usually delivered in a threatening tone, making kids sit by the pool and stare at the water like it's a trap. The reality is much less dramatic. Your body doesn't shut down its muscles just because you ate. There's no secret internal clock counting down 30 minutes before allowing you to swim safely. The truth is, swimming after a normal meal rarely causes serious problems. At worst, you might feel a little uncomfortable. But because better safe than sorry sounds more reassuring than science, this rule lives on, as a summer ritual passed down from one generation to the next. Before we wrap up, let's admit one simple thing. Every one of us has believed at least one of these stories. Not because we're stupid, but because this is how humans learn about the world. We hear things, we repeat them, and eventually we believe them. These beliefs don't survive because they're brilliant. They survive because they get repeated so often that no one bothers to check. And sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't an obvious lie. It's a truth that everyone assumes must be right. Now it's your turn. Which story did you believe for the longest time? Which one surprised you the most? Share it in the comments. No judgment, just honest confessions. And if you enjoy this kind of storytelling fun but thoughtful, subscribe to the channel and keep exploring with us. We're not perfect, but we can always learn a little better.